What's kind of the message when you break camp? What do you say to the guys?
I express gratitude. We've had elite attendance for 9 weeks. Talking to some of the guys on our staff, friends of other places. A lot of teams, have different mix, and we don't make anything. We don't exert any pressure. I think our guys wanted to be here, so I thanked them for their work, and told them to be ready for Wofford. Over the next 5 weeks, make sure they're ready for Wofford. We have to hit the ground running. We're not going to get there and ease into things. We're going to get there and start working right off the bat. So just a message of, hey, these next 5 weeks, take time for your family, take time for vacation, but make sure when we show up at Wofford, you're ready to go.
Saw Chris Westry make some plays today. I hadn't really talked to you much about him. What role, if any, do you envision for him? And did he catch your eye at all at those joint practices?
Yeah, that's exactly where at joint practice. I think anytime you have a 6'4" corner, it kind of shows something to you. And I think he played well against us. And then as the year went on, just even like watching like Sunday Night Football, as he played more and more, seeing him. So when the time came, he was someone that I was highly interested in. And for me, he's one of those guys that we have a really deep secondary and a really deep cornerback room. So he's one of those guys, fighting for one of those spots. And, but he certainly brings size, certainly brings a presence in the red zone, certainly brings the ability to match up with a big receiver. And he should be a really good special teams player. And especially in our division with some of the great tight ends that we face, the ability to go out there and play man on a tight end with a hybrid, corner / safety / linebacker guy like him, and he's a corner, but I'm saying he has the size of those other positions. He's a good matchup. So anxious to see him in training camp.
Do you feel good for the offenses at this point?
I'm sorry?
Do you feel good for the offenses at this point?
Yeah, they've worked hard. They've learned a lot. Still, lots been installed. We did it once in phase 1 and phase 2. We did it again in OTAs, and then we'll do it again in training camp, and then hit the season. So it's hard to evaluate things when you don't have true pass rush, and you're not having to knock people off the ball in the run game. So there's a lot of good things that have happened, but we've got to put the pads on. We've got to practice. We've got to play a preseason game, a joint practice, and see where we are.
Considering that, what have been your impressions of Matt Corral?
I think Matt's done a nice job. I mean, I think the way Ben kind of says this, when the ball snapped, Matt's natural instincts are usually pretty right on. Like there was a play today, he went to the left and wasn't there. He came right back to the right. You find a young guy that can scan the field like that, that's really good. The pre-snap is what's getting him a little bit, getting in the huddle, mastering the play call, getting the line of scrimmage, making a protection call, changing the cadence, shifting the motion. It's just different, right? I mean, I think if you polled the guys on our offense that are under the age of like 26, most of them have never been in the huddle, until they get here. So it's just a different world. I think Sam, I saw Sam's press conference yesterday. I think some of you guys asked him that. And I think he said it was just a different world. And so, but I think the arrow's definitely pointed up for Matt. But it's going to take him time.
Matt, what do you make of your red zone offense today? It looked like the guys were having a lot of fun scoring touchdowns early.
Yeah, Joey McGuire is the head coach of Texas Tech, really good friend of mine, worked for me, and I went out and watched them practice, and they did that little red zone lockout competition. I think some of the air raid guys used that, and so we kind of brought it back. One thing about our guys is they're highly competitive. I mean, I get yelled at more about it was a sack or it was incomplete or whatever. And so that's fun, and it's obviously a very offensive drill. I mean, we're going for it on 4th down most of the time because there's no kicker today. There's no pass rush. There's no tackling. But we came out of this year saying we wanted to be much better red zone defense than we were last year. We want to be a much better red zone offense, and so we're spending a lot of time down there. And I think Sam's done a nice job. PJ's done a nice job. Our receivers are getting more comfortable down there. They're extending plays better. So I think the work's starting to pay off.
I know you said a lot about Terrace's development, but we saw a lot from Rashard Higgins today. That battle between those two, how I guess heated will that battle become?
Yeah, I don't think it's just those two. I think it'll be all the guys. I think we have a unique situation in that we have Andre here, who's probably more of just a return specialist who can play receiver, but we're really counting on him to return well for us. So I think there's guys like Shy that have to, really establish their role. C.J. Saunders has been one of the bright spots of OTAs. He's got to go out there and do it in the pads, when camp comes. Rashad's played a lot of football. He's a pro. I think as he got here and got acclimated to what we do and got his legs underneath him, he's really come on strong. So in that receiver room, there should be a lot of competition for not just spots on the roster, but also how much, for game day jersey to be active and then to play. And a lot of it will be special teams, to be quite honest with you. So we have guys like Zylstra that are, good receivers and good special teams players. And So I think there's a kind of a vision for all those guys. I think we have to get the pads on, and we have to see what guys can do, with pads on versus competition.
Do you have any different feeling about this team leaving camp than you did maybe the previous 2 seasons?
No, I mean I just think we're a better team. I think guys have been here for 2 years now. They've really grown. At the same time, we've added some really good faces. Some really good new players. Guys like Corey Littleton, guys like Damian, guys like Matt Ioannidis, guys like Corbett. Those have been really good. We just mentioned Rashad. So those guys are really good additions, and I think the rest of our guys have really grown. So I was doing the math the other day. I think there's only like 10 guys on the roster now that were on the roster when I first took the job. So there's been a lot of shuffling of faces. Maybe it's 11. Forgive me if I'm off, but a lot of shuffling of faces, and I think a lot of those guys, I'm really pleased. I mean, there's Johnny Hecker. I mean, what a great addition to our team Johnny Hecker has been. So I think Scott did a great job in the offseason of really improving the roster for us.
What positions do you still think you'll be looking to get help at?
I think we'll always look at everything, to be quite honest with you, even if it's just upgrading, at the bottom end of that position. But I think we're always looking for D-line depth. We're always looking for that defensive end that can also play inside on third down. I think those are the kind of the main positions where we would look for somebody. But Scott's one of those guys. I mean, every day he brings up a different name, so they're always looking.
Did Sam do anything over the last 9 weeks to change your perspective on being, as you've said, open to bringing in someone from the outside? Or is that a hard call to make because you haven't been in pads?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think at every position, I mean, it's our job to try to upgrade it. I mean, it's their job to try to compete it. We'll look at everything. Sometimes I think sometimes people read things into some of the moves we make and all that. Like I just believe in competition. So if I can bring someone in that's going to compete to be the second quarterback or the first quarterback or the third, that's our job. And I believe if at every position, if you're a guy that's kind of looking to make that next step and you have really intense competition and you earn the spot, it's not just given to you, you earn it, that gives you a little bit of confidence. And so, on Sam's perspective, I think he's had a really nice OTAs. When you go back and watch him from OTAs last year to this year, it's night and day how far he's come. That's a credit to Ben and Sean, but it's really a credit to Sam. That being said, if something comes down the line that makes us better, then I know we'll look at it. And that's really true for every position. As you guys know, we brought a guy in the other day to talk to at another position. So we'll keep evaluating, probably even through training camp at every spot.
Matt, when you say take these next 5 weeks and be ready to go and walk, what specifically are you looking at with these guys? Is it keep your body right? Is it keep your nose to the playbook? Is it, or is it some of everything?
It's really be in shape. In the old days when you used to show up in full pads and practice twice a day, you got in shape during camp. You to be quite honest with you, camp was probably a little harder because of the physical toll. Muhammad was out there. We were talking about it. He was talking about what they used to do. Since they've taken the pads off in an effort to keep guys healthier, which is wonderful, you actually run a lot more. Like if you look at the GPS yardage when you don't have pads on, it's twice what you do with pads on. Because if I'm playing running back and I take the handoff, no pads on, I run 40 yards. They'll tap my hip. Pads on, I might go 3 yards. So we've become more like soccer. We've become more like in terms of watching the amount of yardage guys are running as opposed to the hitting. And so guys have to show up because injuries come from really two things: fatigue, and they come from large spikes. So if you spend the next 5 weeks hanging out at the beach or playing the game, then you show up and all of a sudden you're practicing for 2 hours or 90 minutes and you have 500 yards of yardage, 500 yards of load, whatever it's called. You're going to have a spike in injury. You're going to get hurt. So guys have to run. Most of our guys are strong enough. We'd love for them to keep lifting, but they have to run over the next 5 weeks so that when we get to camp, we're not dealing with a bunch of soft tissue injuries. So that's really the message there. And then to your point, a lot of guys are really good football players, but they can't play at the level they want until they know the defense and the offense inside out. We talk about level 4 mastery, which is, unconscious competence, like, knowing everything so much you don't have to think about it. And, veteran players usually are like that, and young players aren't. So we're still a pretty young team. So guys have to stay in the playbook over the next couple weeks. They have to have the discipline to do that and to run to be in shape.
What do the next 5 weeks look like for you? Do you take a break?
All the coaches, personnel guys will take they'll take time over the next 5 weeks. You know, to get away, get out of the building a little bit. You know, it's you know, we want to make sure everyone shows up to Wofford invigorated and excited to be there. And you know, what we're about to do will be really hard. You know, hard preseason, hard at Wofford, the heat, and a long hard season. So make sure guys get out a little bit and get away from here and come back and ready to go.
Matt, what has Icky shown you guys so far, and what does he need to do to be a starting leg tackle in the NFL? What does he need to do?
Yeah, and I think the next step beyond that is also to be like most rookie guys that start on the offensive line play at like a B minus, B level. I mean, we need him to play at like an A minus level, A level. So he's not only has to fight to earn the job, but also play really well. And so again, I think for him, it's making sure he's in shape, making sure his body weight's where it needs to be, making sure that you know he's able to handle the rigors of camp. And then he's got to get the pads on. You know, he's got to adjust to all the different pass rushes you're going to see. You know, from the great players in this league. I think obviously the joint practices will be wonderful for him. Playing in preseason will be important for him. So I just think for him it's about you know handling the volume of day after day. You know, working to excel, and hopefully you know he's right here in town, I'm sure. So hopefully he trains at a high level and then shows up there and just attacks the grind of camp.
Matt, who gets the first reps at left tackle at Wofford?
I don't know if we know that yet. It'll be Brady or him. You know, I mean, Camp's done a good job of kind of mixing that up. I mean, we really try to do a good job of like not getting too caught up in like, hey, you're the one, you're the two. I know the players could probably get caught up in that and everyone else, but we try to. Camp does a good job at during practice of mixing combinations, and I just know that Brady's one of our better players on the team, not just on the offensive line, but on the team. So, you know, it's about finding the right spot for him, but letting those other guys compete as well. So. I don't know how we'll do that, you know, when we get there. To be quite honest, I mean, I think it's kind of, as I've said, kind of we get through this. We kind of go back and watch everything. Hey, where are our guys? And then show up to Wofford, and you can have a great plan. And a guy can come in the first day and say, hey, my hamstring's tight, and it changes your whole plan anyway. So we'll just let them compete it out there.
On that, are any of the injured guys from this portion going? Does it look like they're all going to be okay?
We expect everybody to be full go when we get to Wofford. I think the biggest injury has been Davion Nixon, and so he's got some work to do before now in training camp to get there. There might be a deal where he's cleared, but you know we are smart with him early on. But even him, I'm anticipating as it stands right now, being ready for camp.
Is that the same ACL or something different?
No, it was no, it wasn't ACL that he had. It was a knee injury, but not an ACL. So it's you know it's one of those down the line ones that I can't explain real well. But I expect everybody's here. Sorry, guys.
Matt, remind us what Ian's injury was?
Ian got kicked. Caught a ball in the middle, and a guy kicked him, unfortunately, and so just kind of aggravated an old high ankle sprain. So at first they thought maybe it was a high ankle sprain, but then when they looked at it, it got kicked in an old one. So bothered him for a couple of days, but you know he came back and he was full last week. So it was just more a matter of saving him a little bit.
And Brady would still be considered for the left guard spot.
Yeah, Brady's played left guard, left tackle. We had talked about playing him at center at one point, too, but we felt like his development two positions seemed like it was the right amount.
And Coach, I know the players are, you're talking about the players getting away from, all of this, and the coaches taking a break as well. But are the players and the coaching staff also going to be doing any accountability holding for the players as far as getting in shape for training camp?
Yeah, we're not allowed to do anything with them, right? I mean, they have a plan. Everybody has a reporting weight. There's a conditioning test. So that they show up, we hope that they're all pros. If we have a team where we're saying, we're having to say, hey, did you run today? We're probably not a very good team. So, but we really can't have any contact with them. They're welcome to come in and use the facility, but we can't even do like a virtual meeting with them. There's a lot of rules, and deservedly so. They have time to themselves, and I think the really, really great players, the McCaffreys, those types of guys, they understand that this time away from the facility is where their greatness comes from. Greatness happens outside the building. It's what you do on your own when everyone else might be, hanging out somewhere else. You're grinding. It allows you to make a jump, and so I'm hopeful that all of our guys do that. Based upon the way they've worked this offseason, I would say that they'll do a good job.
Hey, we'll do one or two more. Matt, you alluded to your better team in this OTAs than last year and even the year before. Does that alter the way that you have a construction plan for the 53 and how many you keep in certain groups? Or, because you're going to have decisions at a lot of positions, obviously, with the competition level and the talent level, is better than it has been in the past. Does that change how you envision the 53?
Yeah, I think years ago I had dinner with Dick Vermeil, and I remember him telling me when they made their 53 cut, he was proud of the fact that he never went out and took someone else from another team. That he coached the guys he trained, and that's the kind of sometimes the difference between personnel and coaching staff. Coaching staff, like, we've invested 5 months in this guy. Hey, we'd like to coach him in the season. Personnel, like, hey, but this guy's a little bit better maybe. And so as your roster gets better, those conversations are less and less because it's harder to pick someone up from another team who's better than someone you have. And so to me, I think Scott, Dan, Pat, Samir, they've done a great job of just continuously adding to the roster so that, last year we picked up Michael Jordan at the 53 cut. It was a great pickup. Ended up being a really good player for us last year. And I think he'll be a really good player for us this year. So we don't, our depth has gotten better. The amount of guys we've gotten has gotten better. So even in the draft, we were very specific about, hey, we don't need a ton. Like, year before, we traded back a bunch of times, got a bunch of picks to improve the overall depth of our team. This year it was targeted, like, hey, we're going to win with our veteran players. Let's go get a guy like this. So it was much more targeted. So I say all that to say that I'm hopeful that we don't have to go out at the 53 and bring in 3-4 more guys, that we're happy with the team that we have, but also knowing that we will do whatever it takes to be better. And so that's, like I said, as the roster gets better and better, healthier, guys have been there longer and longer, you have a little bit more peace with, the down the line guys, the guys that give you tremendous depth, play on special teams.
Is that also in terms of 3 quarterbacks as opposed to 2?
Yeah. There's a lot of, like, I think even if you talk to people in the league, a lot of guys will say 2-3. Hey, it's 5/6/7 at this 8. So what we try to do is make sure we never have too few of anything. But then I'm not going to keep one more wide receiver over one more tight end if this guy's a player, this guy's here. So we try to give ourselves enough leeway that, hey, we might keep 3 quarterbacks this year. And so let's make sure that if we do that, because it's better for our team, that, we're not going to hurt another position, but be smart. So we want to keep the 53 best players, but also make sure we have enough at each position. Obviously, the updated practice squad rules make it a little bit easier with elevations and things that you can do now you couldn't do before. We have some really good young players that will probably make the practice squad, and by the end of the season be able to help us if needed.
Just the last tomorrow, when you guys get together today tomorrow, what the quarterback situation looks like, what would you tell them?
I thought that Sam's gotten a lot better. He's really improving in the offense. And if we played today, Sam would be our quarterback. Sam's job is to take the next 5 weeks, make sure he shows up at Wofford better then than he is right now. He said to me yesterday how good he feels footwork-wise in the offense. He's got to improve, get the training camp improved, and he's got to do it with the pads on and people trying to knock you down. You look at the quarterbacking world, from high school through college now, it's so much 7-on-7. A lot of guys can throw. It's what you do when people are trying to chase you down. And so those are his steps. And he knows that. I know that. Ben knows that. That's our job as coaches. Our job is not to think, hey, we need to go get this or that. That's Scott's job. Our job is to get Sam as ready as possible. And at any position, if we can make a significant improvement, we absolutely should. But we can also make a lot of improvements by our guys, playing better this year than they have in the past. And I like where he's headed. Thanks, everybody.